I have a particular class that I'm doing tonight that I planned, but does anybody have anything in particular that they'd like to work on? I can always insert things.
I'm good.
Everybody good?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Whatever
Okay.
you do is great with me.
Okay, just know that you can always say at the beginning of the class, you know what I'd like to work on? XYZ.
Mhm.
So I can always get it in. What we're going to be working on today is a deep concentration of the psoas muscle, PSOAS. And if I were to ask you, first I'll tell you that it is one of the two most important muscles in the body. And what's so important about the psoas, it is responsible for keeping you upright, keeping your torso upright, and for enabling you to walk and move your legs, to dance, run, etc., ride a bike. So if I were to ask you, where do you think that muscle is? Just think for a second about what you think would make sense. Where would the muscle be that keeps you a biped, upright, and that enables balanced walking? Where would that be? So the answer is that it's a muscle. Actually, there's one on each side, and there are really two parts to each one. There's a psoas major and the psoas minor. And it begins in the inner thigh, right inside the top of the femur. There's this teeny little groove. It's really hard to feel. You have to know what you're looking for. But inside the top of the thigh, and then so I'm on my inner right thigh here, it crosses the pubis on the left side, and then it comes around to the lumbar spine and even connects in a few places a little higher up on the low thoracic processes, the vertebrae. And so really quite an extremely complicated muscle connecting the legs, the pelvis, and the spine. And that is what enables us to move and stay as balanced as we do. And it's also a muscle that causes a whole lot of difficulty in people because of all its intricate connection and threading through different parts of fascia tissue and ligaments and tendons and muscles and bones. It's so easy for it to get tight. Okay, so if you think about your fists, if you make fists and think of them as tight, so maybe give them a little squeeze in front of you and really grip, apply some pressure there. And now let go of the pressure, but keep your hands just like they are in fists. Notice the easing of the pressure. And then slowly lift your thumbs and begin to straighten out your fingers. Now that is a pretty simple way to contract and then lengthen. But imagine if you were doing this inside the body on a deep level and there were all these other parts of your anatomy you had to bypass. So what happens is the psoas gets tight and it stays tight. And from it, you can have lots of low back pain. You can have belly aches. You can have knee pain because the attachment from the thigh. So I really like every now and then to give the psoas its special due. So I'm dedicating this whole class to it. So in some circles, it's called the soul muscle, S-O-U-L, because it really has so much to do with keeping you in balance and on track, at least on a physical level, which is, I guess, a metaphor for other levels. So that's what we're going to work on today in our asana. And so I'm going to probably repeat myself ad nauseum for what I want you to be looking for, what the sensations are in different poses as we contract and release this muscle. So if we're contracting, it's short. So think again where the muscle is. So if I'm sitting like this or sitting with my knee up like this, the muscle's really contracted in here. And there's times it's wonderful that it's contracted, but if we sit in chairs all day long or in car seats, it's too much contraction. We weren't meant for that. So this is why sometimes, a lot of times, you've been sitting and you'll get up and you go, oh, and you feel like you've got the tush of an elephant and you can't lift your belly. So it's because it really, the psoas muscle needs to be lengthened out. So we're going to work on lengthening the top part of the psoas and the bottom in different poses. And this will take a little bit of concentration. So instead of just going into a pose, we're really going to be thinking about what the psoas feels like. And I'm going to ask you just to have really soft, balanced breathing in today's class. Nothing fancy, not even ujjayi breath with the glottis. So we'll just start with hands on our knees, sitting upright, feeling our sit bones making contact with the mat. If your shoulders are a little closed or hunched forward, pull them back so that they're stacked over the hip bones. And let's lift the arms up. Palms come to the side. Hold them here. Feel a little bit of heaviness in the palms. Turn the palms down and exhale. So while we're doing this, I want you to start beginning to concentrate on your pelvis being, as we talked about last time a little bit, I think I've used the analogy of a shoebox, of keeping the pelvis nice and steady. So what we really want to avoid here is a posterior tilt in the pelvis. So if you look at me here for a second. So a posterior tilt is when the upper part of the pelvis comes up forward like that. And anterior tilt is when the bottom of the pelvis comes forward. So we don't want to be like this, and we don't want too much of a lumbar curve. So we want to try to keep it nice and steady here. And what we're going to do is we play around with a little bit of arms for a moment, is try to not move this pelvis, and you're going to see how hard it is. All right, so one more time, let's lift the arms up, turn the palms ceilingward, breathe softly, just think of nice slow refined movements without changing the shape of the pelvis at all. Slowly lift your arm and notice how the pelvis wants to change. Pull in the belly, bring the hands up. Look up if you can toward your hands coming together. Exhale, palms down halfway. And notice if there's any difference at all when you gently lower your arm. Let's try that one more time. Inhale up halfway, belly in, no anterior tilt as we lift. So really pulling the navel center in, help, lifting the ribs, lift the head. Exhale halfway down and release. All right, that's the easy part. It's when we begin to use the rest of our body, particularly our legs, that it gets really, really easy to tilt the pelvis. So, bringing your hands to your knees again. See if you can get that neutral tilt of the pelvis where there's perhaps less of a curve in the lumbar spine than usual. And just make a little circle with your hips, side, front, and back. Side, front, and back. Other way. And come back to neutral. Bring your hands to the mat in front of you. Come onto all fours. So we're going to bring our right foot forward, and we want right angles with both legs. So knee over ankle in front, left knee is over the hip bone, back toenails are on the mat. Now lift up halfway, let your right torso rest on your thigh for a minute, just hang down. Bring the back of your hands to your low back, pull the belly in, lift up, and see if you can get that perfect square of the pelvis. All right, deep inside here, connecting the inner thigh, the opposite pubic bone connection, and then all around to your lumbar spine is this muscle. So right now it's somewhat contracted, not hugely. And notice what's going to happen to the pelvis when we take a small movement with our arms. Shoulders are over hips. We're going to inhale and lift the arms forward. So see if you can feel that left glute pulling forward. That's what it needs to do to help keep pelvis stationary. Lift the arms all the way up. Notice when it starts to want to change in the pelvis. You might have to fight the right knee a little bit from going out to the side. So hug in. Come to cactus arms. And again, without moving the pelvis, look up. Lift the collarbones in the chest and look up a little bit. Don't jut the ribs forward. We're lifting up, not forward. And we're not arching the low back. And exhale. Let's take the right foot and bring it out to the side with the toes pointing forward and the hands are still down. So it's like we're on all fours, except that the right leg is out. Pay attention to the hands, middle two fingers, pointer and middle one pointing forward, left hip over left knee. Notice what you're feeling from your head to your neck and from your neck and your low back. So you might not be completely, chances are your low back is not completely straight, because if it were, you'd probably have to bend your elbows a little bit. Notice what you're feeling on the inner right thigh there. Stay here for a moment. And then lift the right arm forward. Pelvis stays neutral. Lift the right arm up. Round it. And come back down. Inhale softly. Tuning in to whatever it is you feel. Inhale again. Big breath out. We're going to lift both arms. So come onto spider fingers. Bring the right hand to the right hip. Left hand to the left hip. Neutralize the pelvis. Inhale, arms up. Clasp together. And over gently to the right side. We're not going for distance or too much of an arc. We're trying to begin stretching out the left psoas. So right around here is where you're going to feel it. Inhale. Exhale. Arms out to the side. Notice if your arms feel heavy. Use your glutes to push your pelvis a little forward. Belly in. Exhale down. Right knee in. Left foot forward. Left arm comes up. Inhale. Only arm is moving. Obviously, the shoulder and back are moving too. And circle. And down. And both. Up. Clasp. See if you can get the other thumb on the outside. Notice here if you've kind of fallen into yourself and you've got that posterior tilt, and pull the tailbone under, lift up, toning the belly, and over to the left, gently. Inhale up a little, exhale to the side. So Saraswati is the deity of many things, but among them refinement. This class is about refining this particular muscle. So refinement is done without force and done gently. Good. With a left foot in front as it is, we're going to try to lift up into a cow pose with the back. So feel that somebody is picking up the middle of your shirt on your thoracic spine. Lift it up. And then inhale. Chest comes forward. Neck opens. Gaze comes out. Exhale. So it's cat, cow in another variation. Inhale. You can do this on fists too if it feels better. Flat hands or blocks. Give it one more time. Exhale. Left knee back, right foot forward. Same thing again. If it doesn't feel quite comfortable to you, you can move your foot out a little bit and put both hands underneath. But really, we want to try to keep the wrists underneath the shoulders as much as possible. This time, let's start with cat. Make sure your legs are at right angle still. Inhale. I meant cow. Said cat. Exhale. Now you're pulling the bottom of the pelvis forward and anterior tilt. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Bring your shoulder blades together. Exhale. Good. Come onto your knees. Keep your knees a little bit apart, not too wide. And begin sinking your hips back to a child's pose. Noticing the psoas muscle there, which is going to get shortened now. So as it shortens, it contracts. Bring your forehead down on the mat. And breathe. 3 deep breaths. Now, if you can go from feeling that contraction of the muscle to letting it release completely, do so. Think of the inner thigh. Think of the pubic bone where the muscle crosses over, let it relax. And then think of the lumbar spine and a little bit up to the thoracic spine. Just let it go. You don't have to hold on to anything. So even during a certain type of muscle contraction, we can really, really let go. Bringing awareness to that muscle. Inhale. Come up onto your knees. Tuck your toes under. And come up for downward facing dog. Keep the knees a little bent. Push the hips back. Now come onto the ball of the right foot and try to stretch the left heel a little bit more toward the mat, causing no deep strain. Feel into the inside of the thigh. You'll also feel the back of the thigh here. And switch. So keeping the front knee bent and only straighten the back leg as much as possible. As the heel tries to make its way down to the mat, you'll feel the muscles firing up, probably in the calf. And see if you can tune in a little more specifically to the psoas. If you can bring your abdomen a little closer toward the inner thigh, you're going to feel that stretch on the right side. Come back onto the balls of both feet. Stretch up so the heels are right above the toes. Walk front foot forward, the left foot forward. Bend the knees. Bring the arms out. Slowly lift up. Now you're kind of leaning forward. So notice when you turn to level the pelvis completely. Then you can straighten the legs, open the palms, bring your hands together, and come to heart center. Breathe softly. So little bits of information here just to help us really, really zero in on what's going on with these muscles. Take a few little pivot side to side without moving your feet. Think of this wonderful construction of ours, that we are held up by these muscles. Bend the knees, lift the arms halfway forward. Make sure there's no posterior pelvic tilt. And notice this is going to be a little hard. Try to keep the pelvis as it is as you lift the arms all the way up. Your inner thigh muscles are working here. Your glutes are working. Everything to keep the pelvis nice and level. Open the arms. Hold the hands in back as you clasp them together. Keep the knees bent. Bring the belly and the ribs toward the bent knees. And now gently start lowering down in a forward fold, lifting the arms. And when it is comfortable, straightening the legs. Pushing the femur bones back against the hamstring. Getting a lot of action in the back of the legs and the buttocks. Take another deep breath here as you exhale. Maybe there's a little more room, a little more freedom. The shoulders and arms to move forward. Inhale. And exhale. Bend the knees. Bring the hands to the sides of the hips. And notice again what's happening when you're coming up. So lift the pelvic floor, pull the belly in. Mindful, so there's no posterior tilt, which would mean you are arching your low back too much. And as you come to stand, fine tune shoulders. So let's roll the shoulders a little bit. Let's interlace the hands behind the head. Neck comes to chin. Pull the shoulders toward each other. Don't switch your posture in any meaningful way. Feel the insides of the thighs pulling together, but you're not moving them per se. Stretching the muscles in the neck. Those big, thick straps of scalene. Lift upright again. So as keeping you upright, open the shoulders, open the arms, bring them together, bring them down to the heart center, knees bent, skiers pose. And exhale down to a forward fold. And stepping into a downward facing dog. Inhale, come back to that soft breath. Determine for yourself what a soft breath is. And then from down dog, we're going to come into a plank pose. So pull shoulders forward over wrists. Engage the quadriceps. If your butt is sticking up, you've probably got a posterior tilt. Pull the belly in. And then we're coming down gently for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax the toes. Arms are on either side of the head. Forearms down in Sphinx Pose. Soft breath. Keeping the feet and the knees on the mat. Keeping the head and the ribs on the mat. Just lift the pelvis off the mat. And feel as though you're pulling it back a little bit. And release. And now bring your hands out to the side in spider fingers. And your feet are fairly close together. They don't have to be touching. See if you can get your wrists right under your elbows here. And we're just going to take a slow train up to Cobra. Softly inhale and rise. Chest, belly. Now, as you push the pubic bone down, try to pull the belly up more, releasing the low back, stretching both the tops of the psoas muscles, and exhale, returning down. Inhale, exhale. This time we'll come to Sphinx Arms with the hands interlaced. So notice which thumb is over the other. So we're going to do this the other way too. So you're in a Sphinx pose. Same thing we did before. You'll keep your knees down. You're going to keep your chest and your arms down. You're just going to try to lift the hips off the mat for a quick moment and release. Inhale, exhale. Lift the left leg, reach around for the foot. You can hold the side of the foot, thumb on the arch. You can take the whole hand and run it up to the ankle. It's opening our quads a little bit here. Inhale, bringing that foot toward the glute and release. And the other side. Now see if you can identify, at least in your imagination, where the psoas muscle is. You drew a horizontal line between the groin point and the belly button. Deep in there. You're gently stretching. Flatten that muscle if you can on the mat. And down. Good. Cross your thumbs the other way if you remember which way you did it. And now we're going to lift up into a full Sphinx plank. And if that's not going to work for you, then you're going to do it on your knees. So on your knees will look like this. You're not high, your buttocks are not here. You're nice and low and your belly fairly close. Knees make it easier, but it's not that easy. If you can do a full plank, you're going to tuck your toes under and lift up. So either way, we're going to take 5 pulses. 2, we don't touch. 3, trying to avoid that posterior tilt. 4, I know you're saying, I don't know what I'm feeling, but I'm sure feeling it now. Keep going. 1 more. Gently let it down. Fold your arms, bring your head to one side and rest. 3 breaths. concentrating on this refinement of one muscle group that is one of the biggest difference between us and quadrupeds, and use it as a metaphor. When we came up from all fours, we freed up our upper bodies. We opened our bellies and our chests. We opened our faces to the world. We were looking at forward, not down. So it's a wonderful, wonderful metaphor for lifting ourselves up out of the muck. That said, we have wonderful inbred habits of keeping ourselves down in the muck. So thank goodness we have yoga to help remind us. So take one more breath here. And bring your hands to your ribs. Tuck your toes under, up to a downward facing dog. And lift the right leg up. Make any movements you would like to. Circle the thigh bone, the hip socket, bend the leg. And then step it forward toward the right thumb. We're going to lift the left hand, don't go too fast, and come into Crescent Pose. So left and then right, steady the pelvis. Here we go, and right into Warrior Two. Inhale, and in, exhale. So again, using the bottom of the psoas muscle right in here, inside the thigh. You have to, so that this leg doesn't flare out. So pulling it in, this is where we're stretching here. This is affecting your low back. Two options here. You can always come in to Parshvanottanasana this way, but if you'd like to try to go a little deeper today, you're just going to bring your right fingertips down. You could have a block and lift your left arm straight up. You could also come flat onto the hand, spider fingers, wrist. Open the left hip up. Inhale. Exhale. Right knee wants to turn inward. Push it against the arm. Feel the right psoas muscle. Maybe you can feel it connecting around the lumbar vertebrae now. Good. Bring the left hand down. Bring the right hand next to it. And we're coming into flowing brook. Both our hands are inside the right foot, and we're just walking them out a little bit. So the right side of the body is leaning next to the right thigh. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Walk the hands toward the middle and parallel the feet. So now we're coming into Pasarita, Tadasana. Feet are parallel. So hands right now are in front of the feet. Come up onto the balls of the feet. And then come back down onto the heel. Rock the weight back into the heels. Notice how this is pushing the pelvis back posteriorly. Lift the toes. Maybe you're just on your heels. And come on to the full foot. Walk the hands back so the fingertips align with the toes. See if you can keep your elbows parallel. The elbows like to fan out to the side. Soft, refined breath. So you might be putting together that to lengthen the psoas muscle. It generally happens when the legs are stretched apart from each other. So forward and back or side to side. Good. Turn the feet out a little bit. Bend the knees. Just rock side to side, bending one knee and straightening the others. If you're one of the people that gets a cramp doing this, you might find it easier to lift onto the heel. No need to go deep. Good. Walk the hands around to the left leg. So I'm just turning to the other side here and come into down dog. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. So find the soft breath. Can you for a moment distinguish between absolute relaxation of those deeper muscles? Let the low back soften. And lift the left leg up. Move it any way feels good. Bend it, circle it, extend it, circle the feet. And then look forward and bring it up toward the left thumb. So here we're lifting up to crescent again. So very important to keep the right pelvic tilt. Pull in the belly, lift up, bend the back foot. Here we are, warrior two. Inhale and exhale. So both psoases are being elongated here, but particularly the left one. Inhale, maybe put your right hand behind your back and notice, do you have quite a lumbar curve there, or is it perhaps pulled back a little bit? And that's what you want. We're working with not as curled a lumbar curve as we normally naturally have. From here, we're going into either your arm on the leg, Parshva Konasana, or we're bringing the left fingers or the left hand down and stretching up. Here's your time to find the soft breath, to find the trust. If you can be upright balancing on 2 feet, is there a reason you can't balance on 2 feet and 1 hand? It's tricky. Inhale. Exhale. Lower the right hand. Left hand comes next to it inside the right foot. Don't let the left foot toes turn out. And begin walking the hands forward and flowing breath. Pulling the heart forward. And breathe. Can you begin to feel some of the ease? You're not in yoga class to do anything but contract in order to release, to flex in order to extend. Walk the hands back, parallel the feet again in Pasarita Tadasana. This time, bring the hands a little behind you, behind your feet, and flip the palms up. And try sliding the palms behind you, keeping your arms straight. Feel the side edges of both feet on the mat. See if you can engage the knees, if you need to bend them for if there's any kind of pain, do that. But if you can engage them, and then you're going to feel this nice stretch from that part of the thigh where the psoas connect. See if you can feel it across the pubic bones, wiring around like basket twine to the lumbar vertebrae. And then just let it relax. Breathe in. Breathe out. Hands come forward. Knees come down. Keep them wide. Pull the toes together. And take a nice, really wide child's pose. Forehead on the mat, perhaps on a block. So in this pose, the psoas is a little bit less shortened because the thighs are apart. But concentrate on that area between thigh and belly button, that diagonal line. And see if you can let go. We hold so much in there. Sing it to sleep. Feel your breath like a song. 2 more breaths. Inhale. And exhale. Come on up on the knees. Come back to a downward facing dog. Stretch the heels back. Step it forward to a lunge. Keep the knees bent. Open the arms. And now in one gentle movement, straighten the pelvis, straighten the legs. Lift the arms up high. Slight back bend. No pelvic tilt. Hands to heart center. Close your eyes. Inhale. Exhale. And lift the arms up again. Waterfall. Hinging at the hips, hands together. Release the water. Step back to a downward facing dog. Lift the left leg just halfway up. Pull it toward the nose. And back again. Pull it toward the nose. Pull it back again. Pull it toward the nose. Flex the foot. Step the right foot forward. Left knee down in a lunge. So sliding your left foot back. Come upright. Feel how the pelvis has to be the base that stabilizes. The shoulders don't come up first, the pelvis does. Bring your hands together at your heart center. A twist, left elbow outside the right thigh. Palms press against one another. And for anybody requiring more of a challenge, instead of staying here, which is fine to do, you'll tuck your left toe under and you'll lift your left leg. Pull the inner thighs together. You can keep your hands like this or open them. Left fingers to the floor, palm out. Right fingers are up. Look up. Right hand down. Hands on either side of the foot. And switch. Right foot back in a plank. Left foot forward. Down on the knee. And feel free to stay on the knee rather than come up the full leg if that's what's right for you tonight. Take a breath. So as you lift, think that the lifting comes from straightening out the pelvis, opening up the psoas muscle. So inhale, belly in, neutralized pelvis. You know when it's there. And when it's there, your arms are over your hips. Feel the power in the inner thigh. Feel the balance. Hands to heart center. Don't move until you're ready to do so with slow, gentle breath. Refinement. Not rushing. Elbow off to the side. Hands pile. Twisting from the waist. Opening up the chest. And then only if you wish to do it, lifting the right knee off the mat, pushing back with the heel, and open. Or not. Inhale. Exhale. Left hand down, right hand down. Plank pose. Take a little chaturanga or a knee down chaturanga, a cobra or an up dog. And cross your ankles in back of you and push back. I didn't mean cross your ankles, scratch that. Don't cross your ankles. Push back to sit on your heel. Okay, so we're going to work a little on Camel Pose, which opens the psoas quite a bit. So we're going to do it in a couple different ways. I'm going to start on my left so you can see me, but you can start on your right. All right, we're going to do it first with toes tucked because it makes it a little easier. If you look at me for a second, I'm going to show you what you don't want to do. You don't want this. You don't want the pelvis tilted that way. You want it up. Hips over knees. Belly in. This is going to stay like this as much as possible. Okay. So you do your right, I'll do my left. Right arm up. Right hand behind the low back. Palm is out. Exhale, the left arm slowly back, bending the elbow. And then drop the hands somewhere back there. Don't worry about what it's hovering over. And now look forward and up. Keep that hand braced on your back to keep the pelvis stationary. And lift your sternum, your ribs, your collarbone, your heart. And get your fingers as close to that left heel as you can. You may have moved your thighs a little bit back, push them forward. So this is Ardha Ustrasana, half camel. If you'd like to take that arm off the back now and raise, now you're stretching the top of the right psoas. Open, release, free that bondage, and down. We'll do the other side. Left arm, or yes, your left is my right, your left. Bring the arm back. Don't let the pelvis move. Arm is hanging out there. Don't worry about getting the ankle. Now lift the left arm up, keeping the pelvis neutral. Find the tip of the heel if you can. Lift the belly, the chest, the neck, the head. In and exhale. Come down for a moment. Untuck your heels. We're going to try one full one, and if you'd rather not do that, just repeat what we did on each side. I'd like you to get this full sense of camel if you can, and feel that wonderful sort of blossoming quality in those so often tight psoases. Another way to do this, by the way, if this seems a little difficult for you, is to face a wall. And as you're getting into the pose, you might feel that your thighs and hips are coming a little off, and even your abdomen off the wall. So get your feet where you need them to be, your hands where you need them to be, and then pull your pelvis and thighs to touch the wall again. And it's, of course, always acceptable to keep your feet tucked in, or to have a blanket or a bolster on top of your heels so you have less length to go there. The thing we're trying to do here is not torture our lower backs and unsafely move them, but keep the pelvis steady to make that glide backwards happen. So if you want to try a full Ustrasana with feet down, it's a little harder, or toes tucked under, you can. So hips anchored, knees underneath, belly in, shoulders back. Inhale up both arms. Exhale, open, let the air out. Soft breath. And find one foot and then the other. And if you've fallen back a little, push your hips and pull pelvis forward. It's a thoracic spine that's bending here. Look up and exhale. Arms forward. Now cross your feet. Come to sit on the mat. Sit on your seat. And bring your right foot forward of your left. And then stretch it out on an angle. Psoas, right inside here. So lift the right arm. Make sure, by the way, that your toes are sticking straight up, not off to the side. Lift your arm up, palm faces inward. And then you turn the palm as though you want to look right inside of it. And you just gently bring the arm down to the side of the leg. Maybe the whole arm doesn't come down. Maybe you need a block underneath it. Maybe you need to be that competitive with yourself to get it down. Maybe you just bring it here. That's so fine. And then you lift the left arm. And you open. Inhale. And exhale. See if you can grow up through the left arm, lengthening the spine. Left hand comes over to baby toe or thereabout, turning the head toward the knee. A forward fold stretch. Inhale up and exhale. Last one, and then we wind down. Right foot in, left leg out at a diagonal. So this pose can be done with the legs straight forward and out. So inhale, left arm up. Gaze into the palm. Gently refine. So it's something is refined, not being done in a show-off way. It's an elegant way that works with anything that you offer it up with. It's the intention. It's not the expanse or the expense. So maybe only your wrist gets down, not your whole hand. Doesn't matter if your foot hand can come outside the foot, delightful. And if you feel like adding a little more stretch, do so. Inhale. Soft exhale. Good. And bring your hands behind your back. Straighten your leg. They're maybe hip distance apart or a little more. Elbows are bent behind you. And lift up onto your heels. Get a nice stretch. Flex and curl your toes a little bit. If you can keep your hips up and bring your toes down to the mat, do that, but that causes some people cramp. So be careful there. And come down. Pull your knees up. Bring your buttocks closer to your heels. Come onto your back. Bring your elbows next to your body with the fingers pointing upward. That just helps your placement. And then lower your hands and lift into a bridge pose. So notice how in this pose, the pelvis is stationary. It's not tilted to get too much curve or too much bow. Now the next thing we're going to do is a little hard, but lift the right leg, not high. Try to keep the hips even and lower the hips. Other side. Lift the hips. Think of that thigh point inside the femur. The bottom of the psoas. Extend the left leg. Exhale. And down. Maybe you're finished. Maybe you want to try one more thing. Lifting the hips up. You can also put a block under your sacrum. Lift the right leg up. Cross the ankle on the right leg. And even out the IS points on the front of the hips here. And come down. Left side. Lift. Cross. Really get your alignment straight here. Pull up. And down. Both legs up. Hands come to the back of the legs, the calves, if not back of the thighs. Pull your head up toward your knees. Pull your knees in toward your forehead. Bend the knees. Clasp your hands. Rock side to side. Head can be up or down. Happy baby. Arms or knees into armpits. And then bring your arms inside your legs. Wrap them around your calves. Hold the sides of your feet and just rock back and forth, keeping the soles of the feet somewhat close together. Open wide in Upavishta. Massage your legs as they come down onto the mat nice and wide. Keep the knees bent and then begin to straighten. And as you bring the backs of your hands to your side body for Shavasana, almost there. Just side to side with the leg. And one last counter measure here. Cactus arms, knees into the chest, knees over to the right. Left leg straightens out. Left ear turns on toward the left shoulder. Left arm stretches up a little bit on the diagonal there. Getting a full body stretch. Off breath. Delicate movement. Foot comes over the other ankle. Head centers. Back to back. Left side. Straighten the leg if that feels good. Right shoulder on the mat. Right arm up. Breathe. And then bring your right sole of foot to the left. Take just a few seconds here in Baddha Konasana, butterfly pose. Maybe even pull the knees up toward each other a little bit. Just loosen a little there in the inner thigh. And then as you're ready, slide your feet down. Bring your arms to the sides of the body. Close enough so they feel part of you. Far enough so each limb has its own little feel which to spread out. As you let go in Shavasana, yes, you're releasing the muscles. You've contracted and stretched. You're releasing the need to pay attention to your breath. Releasing the need to concentrate and to balance. Now release the release. Let all muscles go slack particularly in the groin, around the pubic area, and those lacing up like Converse sneakers in the low spine. Think of opening up a basketball shoe. Really open those laces. To pull your foot out, you can slide it out. Let your shoulders and upper arms relax. Backs of your hands and your fingers. In on your face, temple, in your teeth. The sternum, where we often develop a tightness, knots of anxiety. Everything soft. Let your attention glide through the centers of awareness along the spine with adoring intent. There is a song to each area of the body, resonating in sweet vortices, long rhythmic vowels and hum. Ah, and E, and Om, resounding on and on. Find the harmonies emanating from the circulation of life's energies. Listen to these sounds, and then more subtly as an underlying hum. Eventually, as more subtle feeling, and then diving more deeply again. Dissolve into the freedom. Let go. Stop looking, and you will find yourself. Aware of your breath. Unless you feel like staying in Shavasana, roll yourself onto one side. Lift yourself to seated pose. Bringing hands to heart center. Contemplating the meaning of the words of Ramdas, the yogi master who died last year. We are all just walking each other home. Namaste.
Namaste.